Happy Halloween, everybody. We're capping off this full month worth of horror timelines here. I know I'm a little bit early, so I do realize this means a little bit longer gap until the next episode, but I think it's worth it because this week we're going to talk about Hellraiser, one of my other most requested videos. So what we're going to do is we're going to check out all of these movies in the series and find out if they have any continuity or if my torture is going to be legendary even in hell. So the puzzle box was first opened in 1987, and the series starts off by introducing us to Frank Cotton and the mysterious box. He opens it and is immediately hooked, and we briefly see several mysterious figures retrieve it. More on them later. Next, we meet Frank's brother Larry and his wife Julia and his daughter Kirsty. It turns out that Julia and Frank were, snuggly, and Larry cuts his hand, bleeding onto the floor, and, I don't know why I can watch horror movies in which people's heads explode, but this simple hand cut freaks me out. And that releases Frank from hell. Well, most of him. Julia kills people and Frank feeds on their blood, which starts to restore him, and he mentions he's being chased by things called Cenobites. He then explains that opening the box calls to Cenobites who will cause you pain and pleasure together as one. So Kirsty gets her hand on the box and opens it up without knowing what it does, and opens a door to hell. She then first meets the engineer, and then the chatterer, Pinhead, and Butterball, and finally the female. Kirsty makes a deal to deliver Frank to them, who meanwhile has killed Frank and stolen his skin, although I'm not sure how he also stole his vocal cords. He then kills Julia before the Cenobites show up and yank him apart, which he kinda seems to like. The gash. A gash is what a group of Cenobites is referred to as. Fun fact. Then tries to take Kirsty, but she uses the puzzle box to send each one of them back, except for Butterball. That guy just gets crushed. This dragon thing takes the box, and we end up right back where we started, with another hapless guy seeking the box. So, we don't have a date yet. Steve's clothes and Julia's hair and makeup certainly scream 80s, so it looks like the release date of 87 could work for now. It was only 1 year until we saw a sequel with the 1988 release of Hellbound, Hellraiser 2. This one starts with a flashback to World War I, and we see the creation of Pinhead. We then catch up with Kirsty, now admitted into the Channard Psychiatric Hospital, and it's pretty clear that we're immediately following the events of the first film, considering that she still has the dirt and blood on her from the finale, so we're still in the same year. That night, she gets a message from her father that he's in hell, and it turns out that the head of the hospital is a collector and has 3 puzzle boxes, and uses the mattress that Julia died on to restore her to life. Soon, she's killed enough people to be 100% again, and Dr. Channard uses a withdrawn teen girl to open the box, and Chatterer, the female, and Butterball shows up, although I'm not sure how he ended up back in hell. Pinhead finally appears, and then they leave Tiffany alone because they realize that she wasn't calling them, and everyone heads into hell, where they encounter Leviathan, Lord of the Labyrinth. Julia says it sent her back, so unlike Frank, it seems that she didn't escape, but she was sent to recruit Channard, who is then turned into a Cenobite. Kirsty finds Frank in hell, and it was him that sent the message, not her dad, so she burns his skin off, and then Julia gets her revenge. But shortly after, she gets deskinned as well. The Channard Cenobite makes a grand entrance, and Kirsty comes face to face with the gash, and Chatterer dies now? That's random. They face off against Channard, and he kills them all, and they revert to their human forms from before they were Cenobites, including Pinhead, who he transforms back into Elliot Spencer before killing him. Julia shows back up, distracting Channard and allowing Tiffany time to solve the puzzle box, causing Leviathan to yank off Channard's head. Julia is then revealed to be Kirsty under the skin in a clever distraction ruse. Leviathan then folds up and closes the gateway to hell, and the girls move on. We're left with an epilogue with Julia's mattress and a pillar from hell in which we see a revived Pinhead, Julia, and the Vagrant from the first film. It took 4 years until we saw a new chapter with 1992's Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth. This one kicks off with JP here, buying the pillar at the ending of the last one, although it's a statue now, and I guess this is the Vagrant, but he's recast, so it can definitely be another emissary of hell with a similar job. An odd death leads a reporter to investigate, and this bus is advertising Miss Saigon on Broadway, and there's a billboard for Guys and Dolls. Miss Saigon debuted in 91, and the revival of Guys and Dolls hit in April of 92, so we're either in late 91 or early 92 here, so let's go with 92, which lines up with this guy's haircut, which I'm sorry to say is the same one that I had in 92. Anyway, her search takes her to JP's club, the Boiler Room, where little blood spatter wakes up old Pinhead, who then starts skinning, because losing your skin is a consistent hazard in this series. Joey then finds a video of Kirsty, most likely from the day or so that she spent at the hospital, and is contacted by Elliot Spencer. Meanwhile, JP's girl sells him out, freeing Pinhead, while Joey goes back to World War I and meets Spencer, whose soul has been split from his Cenobite self. Everything goes off the rails as Pinhead basically kills everyone in the club for no reason, since he's not bound by the rules of the box anymore, and he makes some new Cenobites, and they're so cool and modern. There's, Camerahead, CD, Barbie, Dreamer, and Pistonhead. Joey figures out the box and defeats everyone but the big guy, and Spencer remerges with him, and then Joey stabs him with the puzzle, then sinks it into a building foundation, and a short while later the design has taken over the whole building apparently. It took another 4 years for 1996's Hellraiser Bloodline to be released after an extremely troubled production. It starts off in space in 2127, and this guy tries opening the box via robot, and then flashes back to several centuries ago to his ancestor Philip Lamarchand, who invented the box. Little baby Adam Scott shows up and kills someone that is later used in the first ever box opening to summon a new demon named Angelique, and this guy says that it's the 18th century, so we're sometime in the 1700s. She kills Merchant, and we flash to Paris in 1996 and meet John Merchant, descendant of Philip. And Angelique is here, as well as Scott's Jacques, who is immortal now because he says it's been 200 years, which places the earlier scenes in around 1796 or so. But she quickly kills him. We see John's an architect, and it looks like he's built a building at the ending of Part 3, or at least one like it, and a box is open, and we see Pinhead, who knows Angelique from the olden days. Although come to think of it, how does Pinhead know Angelique, considering that she was created in 1796 and has been on Earth ever since, and Pinhead became Pinhead in 1921, so I'm going to assume maybe that the spirit of the character existed forever, and that was just the form it was taking. It doesn't really make sense. He creates a new Cenobite with the twins, we meet the Chatter Beast, and things lead up to John getting beheaded, and Pinhead and Angelique are sent back to Hell. We then bounce back to 2127 and see Pinhead, a Cenobite version of Angelique, and the twins, and they kill Space Marines because we're over 100 years in the future and flashlight technology hasn't advanced at all. Merchant tricks Pinhead and traps him on the ship, which turns out to be a giant Elysium configuration that kills Pinhead and shuts the gate to Hell forever. So I guess 4 years is the appropriate time between sequels, as 2000 saw the release of Hellraiser Inferno, the first direct-to-video edition. It was directed by future Doctor Strange director Scott Derrickson and stars discount David Boreanaz Craig Sheffer, who was previously tied to Clive Barker with Nightbreed. He's a corrupt cop who gets his hands on the Lament configuration on a case, and this guy's license was issued in 98 and expires in 03, so we're sometime between there. So he opens the box and he meets the Wire Twins, Torso, and briefly sees Pinhead. And it's a dream, or is it? And then things keep getting weirder and weirder and people end up dead. And things blur between dream and reality. His partner gets killed and a mysterious engineer is revealed to be Joe's psychiatrist, who is also revealed to be Pinhead. And it's revealed that Joe's been in hell the entire time, and he's pulled apart, waking up to find himself back in reality. And this desk calendar finally reveals our date as 1999, July 2nd to be exact, and we discover that Joe's trapped in an eternal loop of torment, so, a happy ending. So we break the 4-year trend with 2002's Hellraiser Hellseeker, which begins by reintroducing Kirsty, looking pretty well adjusted, and she and her husband get in a wreck, and she dies. Trevor survives, but things start getting weird, because Kirsty's not dead, just missing, and a snake pops out of his mouth. The video shows Trevor giving Kirsty the Lament configuration as a wedding present, and she doesn't seem too happy about it. Flashbacks show him possibly meeting the vagrant from the first film, or someone who does a similar job, and Pinhead makes a grand entrance. There's also the Stitch Cenobite, a weird two-headed cop, and it finally comes out that Kirsty opened a box and Chatterer's here, Stitch, the Surgeon, Bound Cenobite, and she offers Pinhead 5 souls for her own because her husband is a douche who was going to kill her. But she kills him instead, and much like the twist in the last one, he's been in hell the whole time. So we don't get a date in this one, but phones and video camera technology make a real-time setting of 2002 make sense. 3 years pass, and in 2005 we get Hellraiser Deader. It follows a reporter on a trail of deaders who seem to be able to revive the dead, and her investigation takes her to Romania, where things get weird right off the bat. And she gets a configuration and opens it. Side note, these boxes aren't much of a puzzle, are they? I mean, anyone who gets their hands on them is able to open them up in about 30 seconds or so. I mean, it's not a puzzle if it's easier to open in a jar of mayo. Pinhead shows up, eventually leading up to her meeting Winter, a descendant of Lamar John, who sacrifices her and she's resurrected. So, in continuity, the last we saw of the Lamar John bloodline was John Merchant's son, who we're assuming was 9 years old then, since that was the age of the actor at the time. I mean, I guess it's possible that Lamar John's bloodline has multiple offshoots and Winter is unrelated to Little Jack, but there's also the possibility that this is him, although Paul Reese was 42 at the time of filming, so that's not as likely. Regardless, Amy opens up the box and Pinhead, Chatterer, Bound, Stitch, and the little sister show up. Winter is hooked, the rest of the cult is killed, and Amy kills herself in order to close the box, which, okay. But the crew is sent back to hell, and again, there's no date on this one, but they have a freaking VCR, so it's in real time also, so it's 2005 here. 2005 also saw the release of Hellraiser Hellworld from the same director as Deader, which starts with a funeral for a guy and then cuts to 2 years later, but we're not sure what year just yet. There's Chatterer masks, Hellworld video games, Pinhead t-shirts, and a Hellworld party with giant lament configurations, and then Lance freaking Henriksen shows up. Pinhead shows up, and then it starts to look like a Saw film, and then it's just kind of generic, with Pinhead killing a guy with a meat cleaver, because that's what Hellraiser movies are about. The Bound Cenobite shows up, giving him more appearances than Butterball, so go figure, and he kills Superman. Chatterer shows up, and it ends up that Lance is the father of the guy who died in the beginning, and bear with me, he's mad at the kids for letting his son die, so he buried them alive, and they've been in there the whole time hallucinating the Cenobites and stuff, and they end up getting saved by a ghost. Lance opens an actual configuration and gets sliced up, again missing the point of the box entirely, and there's no year, but these Nokia phones scream 2005, so let's go with that. It took 6 years until we got another entry because it had to, or else they'd lose the rights, so we got 2011's Hellraiser Revelations. It starts found footage style, yay, with 2 teens in Mexico opening the box and Pinhead shows up, sounding a bit different, and then we catch up with the family and their son is missing. We then see Pinhead, and it's a new actor, and well, yeah. Nico accidentally kills a girl in the video, and Steve randomly shows up in the present. We see a sort of protege Pinhead, and new Pinhead just kind of sucks, and then there's a new female Cenobite that chatters, and then flashbacks give us a new vagrant guy. Nico is taken, and Steven revives him via blood, much like Frank in the original, and then things get incesty. Everything escalates real quick, and we get the revelation that Nico took Steven's skin. They open the box, and the Cenobites come through, and Pins Jr. is actually Steven, and they start killing people. They're gonna take Nico, but the dad kills him, so Pinhead takes his wife, and he dies, leaving Emma with the box. It kinda sucks, but you know what? At least it feels like a Hellraiser film, unlike the couple before it. So that brings us to 2017 with the news of Hellraiser Judgment. I was actually trying to hold off on this video until the movie's release, but no release is currently scheduled. The only thing we know so far is that a new actor has been cast as Pinhead yet again. So I guess the jury's out on this one. We'll see how it is. There has also been a lot of other media featuring the Hellraiser characters, including quite a few comic books, one of which was actually written by Clive Barker himself, which was actually quite good. You can also find Pinhead in other of Clive Barker's novels, including one where he fights another Clive Barker character, Harry Lamore. Check that out as well, too. So there you have it, 9 movies and not a lot of continuity to speak of, yeah. A lot of characters don't make sense, motivations don't make sense, the rules of hell changes, the rules of the box changes, the histories of Pinhead changes, everything kind of bounces around. It's more of an anthology series than it is an actual series itself. I really enjoyed the first 2, and I enjoyed Inferno more than I thought I would. That one really stuck out to me as being one of the better entries, but overall, yeah, there you go, Hellraiser. Well, Hope you enjoyed this week's video. As always, please like and subscribe if you enjoy the video. Share on whatever social medias you like. Also, as I've been stating before, I do have a Patreon account, so please feel free to donate to the cause and help me make some videos. Yeah, so that was about it. I hope you really enjoyed the Oktoberfest of horror timelines. We're going to be doing some other genres for a little bit here, but we will be back with more horror timelines in the near future. And yeah, another video coming up in just a couple weeks, and hope to see you then, and thanks for watching this one. Bye-bye, guys.